The NFL Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is presented by WynnBET. WynnBET is now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. From boosted same-game parlays to live in-game odds, WynnBET has what you need to win. Sign up today, bet $100 and get a $100 free bet at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WynnBET. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WINNBET. State restrictions apply. We're also brought to you by our mini helmet contest. The SGP mini helmets are now in the store, and we're giving away one for free. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/helmet. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/helmet.
I'm just about that action, boss.
You have to be kidding me. That is impossible.
I'm raising the ante. Anybody wants it?
He is Houdini. Jordan Davis, dog. Jalen Hurts, dog. AJ Brown, dog. How many of you want to eat a W tonight?
It is a Monday, and it is the NFL Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Ryan McIntyre. I'm Rod Villagomez. Welcome to those of you joining us watching on our YouTube, on our Twitter stream, on wherever else you're finding us. What's up, Tyler Lenz? Welcome into all of you listening on Spotify, on wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Ryan, my friend, this week was the week that kept on giving, man. And as we wind down to the end of the regular season, I got to tell you, I feel like we're watching some of the best football that we watched all season.
Yeah, no, good to be on, Rod. Good to see you again. And this was a Sunday that, I mean, I don't remember a Sunday where every game, it felt like, came down to the wire. Comebacks all over the place. Obviously, you had the Jags come back, the Raiders, crazy ending that we'll get into. And it all started on Saturday with the Vikings coming back with the greatest comeback in NFL history. And then, obviously, we're not going to talk about the Sunday night game. We'll skip over that one. But yeah, no, it was fun. It was playoff football.
It was. And look, I know there's a lot of people out there that are saying it was the largest, not the greatest, but the largest comeback in NFL history. I want those of you who are out there who don't like the word greatest comeback because there may be another better one. Yes, it was the largest comeback in NFL history. But I mean, yeah, absolutely. There were so many games that just had you 1000% glued to the television for the entire time that they were playing. Like you said, it started Saturday, carried on into Sunday, but the week did not even start then. It started on Thursday night with, thank you very much, Victory Monday for me. We'll get into that in a second.
Victory weekend.
Victory weekend. Yeah, I got to enjoy Saturday and Sunday. Like, that was a nice feeling to already know that your win was in the bank, and all you got to do now is just sit back and watch football.
Yeah, no doubt. And your Niners are rolling. Hopefully it ends on Saturday for me, but because it's a Washington San Fran on Christmas Eve. But yeah, no, the Niners are playing as good as football as anybody in the NFL. Brock Purdy, I mean, you may have stumbled into something here, Rod.
Hey, listen, he stumbled into something, man. You want to talk about being able to say on your resume, I was the last man taken in the draft, and have it mean something. Now, all of a sudden, we'll talk about that in a second, because as we always do, we'll break down the entire week 15 slate, betting angles and all that other good stuff as we do. And then, of course, we'll take a look ahead to week 17. Oh my God, we're almost there. We're almost to the end. And
it's
some
sad.
of the line, it is, man. I'm a little bit teary-eyed over here.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, Ryan, let's go ahead and do that. Let's take a look at Thursday night, as it was the San Francisco 49ers looking to lock up the NFC West over the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle, battling not only Geno Smith and the resurgent Seahawks, but 12th man. And guess what? They could have had 15, 16, 17 men out there on the field, and I don't know that they would have been able to beat the Niners. Walked away with a 21-13 win. That score, Ryan, did not even tell the story of this game. It was a lot closer than it should have been. San Francisco covering their 3-point spread and definitely just taking care of business. And yes, locking up that NFC West.
Yeah, no, and shout out to the Niners clinching the West at the rival, the Seattle Seahawks. It's going to be interesting. I mean, can the Niners catch the Vikings for the 2 seed? I'm sure as a Niners fan, you want to get that 2 seed. So you have home field not only in the wild card round, but the divisional round as well. You haven't lost since that Kansas City Chiefs game when McCaffrey initially came over in the trade. So the Niners are as hot as anybody, and I don't see them slowing down anytime soon.
So, and that's the thing about it. That Minnesota game had so much riding on it, and obviously we'll talk about it when we get there. But for Niners fans, we were holding our breaths and really just hoping that the Colts held serve. Unfortunately, Matt Ryan was on the other side of that. But no, as for the Niners, like, look, here's the thing about them. They are playing fantastic defensive football, and that has been
Correct.
the staple of the 49ers for a very long time. Almost plug and play at the quarterback position, and that's fine. I mean, since Steve Young, since Joe Montana, you could even argue Jeff Garcia, like there hasn't necessarily been the Rock. Colin Kaepernick was a name, but he wasn't a transcendent quarterback. And then there'll be people that argue with me about that too, but I don't think he was a Joe Montana or a Steve Young, a generational quarterback that changed the game, right? I don't think he was either one of that. Alex Smith, fine, good quarterback, just not one of those guys. But you've had a slew of everybody else, right? I mean, now with Jimmy Garoppolo, with Trey Lance, it almost doesn't matter at this point, which is good for the Niners because they can continue to win if their defense continues to keep points off the board.
Yeah, no, you mentioned it with all those names. Kind of Alex Smith and Garoppolo kind of are similar quarterbacks in terms of game managing, get the ball to the receivers in the right places. Seems like Brock Purdy still is similar to those kind of guys in their mold and how they're made up. And looking at Kaepernick was different. Kaepernick was more of a dynamic player, and it seems like Trey Lance could be that guy as well. But like you said, they've done it with both sides of the quarterback, say game manager, an electric quarterback that can get it done with his legs. But the one constant when the Niners are good is that dominant defense and a good running game to go with the quarterback play.
And that's what's been happening for the Niners. It really has been, and it's been fun to watch as a fan. I think it's been fun to watch in all of football. I mean, you watch these guys come out and play this game, and just everybody's having fun. Everybody's having fun, up to and including Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy. He's out there just having a great time. Got a great surrounding cast of characters, and it's fun football to watch.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's going to be interesting looking at, the Niners have won, 7 in a row, and they haven't given up more than 17 points in that 7-game win streak. And that was to Miami a couple weeks back, who was on fire going into that game. The Niners, looking at what they got left, on paper, they should win all 3. They got Washington. That's actually their hardest game, Washington, at home, and then they got to go to Vegas. That's a tricky one with the Bay Area rivalry, but they should win that game as well. And then you got Arizona as well. So Niners are in a good spot here to get the 2 seed, I think.
Niners are in a good spot, but the Seahawks not so much. I think the shine has sort of fallen off of the apple there. You saw a lot of frustration in those players and in the coach themselves, just not being able to get it done at home. Ryan, this means now for them, they have dropped 4 of their last 5 games now, have the Seahawks. What once was a promising season now is a scramble to stay playoff relevant.
Yeah, I think they're done, Rod. They got to go to Kansas City this week, and they got the Jets. Defensively, they're just not the same team as they've been. And looking at, they got torched by Carolina on the ground last week. The Niners could have scored more, I thought, than 21 points, but kind of once they got up, just sat on the ball. They knew they'd win the game. But yeah, no, the Seahawks, it seems like they're going to miss the playoffs. It was a good story for the time, though.
Well, everybody that loved Geno Smith, you can still love Geno Smith. That's not, it's not necessarily a bad thing if you want to do that, because again, Geno Smith was a good story for the first part of the season, but yeah, the Seahawks pretty much done. Over under on this one was 42. They did not get there, barely even close. But like you said, the Niners sort of let up after they scored their 21 points. And really it was just a valiant effort there in the fourth quarter for the Seahawks to even get that touchdown. So, again, this is San Francisco's rest of the season. I'll be curious to see in our look ahead where they're at for their week 17 matchup. So, All right, let's turn our attention now to that greatest or biggest or sizable, whatever. It was a comeback, and it was historical, and it broke some records as Minnesota, 22 points in the fourth quarter and 36 overall in the second half to come back to win 39-36 over Indianapolis, thereby making Matt Ryan probably think about hanging it up after this.
Yeah. If you had the Colts up 33-0 at the break, wow. Great call. If you had the Vikings coming back from 33-0 down, even better call. The money line, I didn't get the money line at that point. I don't even know if it was offered at that point. But the Vikings, unbelievable comeback. This team just continues to find ways to win. I still don't think they're that good a team. I mean, anybody that's down 33-0 to the Colts, I mean, it's the Colts. Like, how are you down 33-0? But they find ways to win games. They keep fighting. Kirk Cousins, monster day, 460 yards, 4 touchdowns. And then Matt Ryan, just another big lead collapse. We saw it in the Super Bowl years ago, 28-3. This one's 33-0.
I don't even understand how it happened. Honestly, I still can't.
I don't know either.
Yeah, it seemed as if the Colts came out and forgot that they were playing, or they just literally turned off and thought maybe that was going to be enough. But, you got Justin Jefferson, you got Dalvin Cook, you got Kirk Cousins. Those guys, they're not going to let up. I mean, like you said, and you've been saying all season long, it's like the Vikings are probably the most suspect 10-win team out there. Now, of course, 11-3, but they're really proved that you got to find a way to win. Your 11 wins, they don't all have to be pretty. But this one obviously was probably the most gritty performance that they've had. And listen, honestly, when you come back like this, that makes you believe. That carries a lot of weight in that locker room.
Yeah.
That flight home, I don't know how many chains Kirk Cousins has on now, but he probably had twice as many on the way home. So I'm just saying that's a really great morale booster for that team. And going forward, they may be hard to stop.
Yeah, no, looking at what they clinched the NFC North now, but their attentions go towards the NFC 2 seed because they don't want to go to San Francisco. I think I think San Francisco is going to win wherever the game's played. But I mean, if you're the Vikings, you feel better about playing at home. They got the Giants, but then they got to finish with 2 tough road games at Green Bay and at Chicago. I know on paper those teams aren't good, but it's still a division rivalry. The 2 teams that hate each other. So it'll be interesting to see if they can hold on.
So for as amazing as this comeback was, if you are a Minnesota -3.5 better, you're still pissed because they did not get the 1 extra point you needed to actually cover the spread. But if you were Indy +3.5 better, you were pretty happy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know how much you really can complain, though, if you had Minnesota -3.5 when you were down 33-0. So that would have been an ultimate bad beat, backdoor cover if the Vikings did not cover that, or the Colts did not cover that after being up 33-0.
Yeah, just I mean, look, I don't even know what to say about this Indianapolis team anymore. It's just 4-9-1. They're scrappy, but just not scrappy enough. And like I said, man, if that's me, I may just be saying to myself, if I'm Matt Ryan, I hung on, I tried, I think we're good.
Agreed. Yeah, no, it's time to hang it up. And yeah, Jeff Saturday's not a head coach either.
It's just frustrating. I don't know what it was. I again, as I am a Niner fan, I was so excited to see Indianapolis jump out to that huge lead. And then, of course, to watch them whittle it down, I was like, well, okay, Niners going to have work to do still to get that 2 seed.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. Well, look, we'll put that one to bed only because, there's not much analysis you can take out of that other than the Vikings are probably going to be scary now. Over-under on this one was 46.5. Blew past that and then some at 75 total points. What's up, Mr. Heat, over there in our chat? Make sure if you're listening to this on a podcast, we do this live. Keep an eye on the NFL Gambling Podcast Twitter feed. I'll let you know on Mondays what time we go live. It's normally about 2:15 Pacific, 5:15 Eastern. But today we're doing it a little bit early because I have a chance to. So we're knocking it out early. But yeah, make sure you get in there and see Ryan's beautiful face.
And the holidays. Yeah, exactly, Rod.
Exactly. All
Something
right.
like that.
So from a game that was 75 points total to a game that was 16 points total, we moved to Cleveland and Baltimore. You want to talk about a letdown? Maybe we needed this game to catch our breath. Really, overall, is what needed to happen, because Baltimore Cleveland did not provide the type of fireworks as the game before it. In fact, in full disclosure, I had this one on the little screen and started to watch the Fresno State Bowl game on the big screen, because I knew that would be more action-packed than this game. So Cleveland ends up holding on to win against Baltimore 13-3, covering the 3-point spread. But Ryan, this was just a snooze fest all the way through.
Yeah, no doubt. It kind of, I mean, the Ravens are struggling right now. They gave up the AFC North now. They still got to go to Cincinnati. I don't see the Bengals giving this division back up. And for the Browns to get to 6-8, I mean, they're still mathematically alive, but this is more about the Ravens just being bad without Lamar.
Yeah, and by mathematically, we're talking new math. Like that's really what we're talking about now. We're not talking about good old fashioned arithmetic. We're talking new math, where we can move variables around and make whatever equation we want. But yeah, I mean, look, Deshaun Watson, 18 of 28, 161 yards, 1 touchdown. You can't say he won the game for you. Chubb, 1 yard short of 100 yards on 21 carries. Still not the dominant Nick Chubb that we've seen in the past. Looks good, but I mean, Chubb should be ripping off 150, 160 yards per game anymore. And when he doesn't, it's kind of a letdown. So J.K. Dobbins with the better end of the rushing day, 13 carries, 125 yards. That man is looking fantastic again.
Yeah, no, and for him to have over 100 yards the way he did, 125 yards, and them only to muster up 3 points, Justin Tucker missed some field goals in this game, rare misses, which kind of changed the whole momentum of the game. I thought for Baltimore, it kind of took the air out of the sails a little bit in terms of like, hey, man, this guy never misses, and for him to miss, it was deflating. So, looking at what Baltimore's got going forward, I mean, I think they're going to make the wild card round. I don't see them being a threat in the AFC, especially with how limited offensively they are right now. They got Atlanta and Pittsburgh at home, so they should win both of those or have a chance to win both of those before they got to go to Cincinnati in Week 18.
I mean, they're missing Lamar. Really, just that's what it's all said and done. Tyler
Huntley.
Well, we'll see, actually, to be honest with you. I mean, look, we know now. I mean, we see the results of what happens when you don't have one of the league's premier quarterbacks under center for you, right? Tyler Huntley, 17 of 30, 138 yards and an interception. That's not going to get it done for you. And he rushed 6 times for 15 yards. Not going to get it done.
No doubt.
So, Cleveland, on the other hand, 6-8, like you said, I don't see a path to them being relevant the rest of the season. So short of anything else, man, this is almost like fade the Ravens if there's no Lamar under center.
Yeah, no, I think if you're a Browns fan, you just want to see Watson deliver a little bit just to get a little bit of momentum going into next year.
Yeah. And I don't know, man. Again, he has not impressed me coming back yet. He has not. This has been a couple of weeks now, right? I mean, we talked about it last week with what Baker Mayfield was able to do off of the flight. And we got a couple of weeks with Deshaun Watson still looking like he hasn't fully gotten into the mix yet.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I haven't been impressed either. I mean, they scored 13 points. They won that game because of their defense.
Absolutely. Over under on this one was 38.5. I'll let you guess where that fell. To the next game, one that was promised a bunch of snow to us, and in fact only ended up being a snow game at the end. Buffalo hanging on, and I mean that by every sense of the imagination, to beat the Miami Dolphins 32-29, despite the snowball fight, despite the snowball gate coming from the Buffalo fans. But yeah, I mean, this was 7-point favorites were the Buffalo Bills, did not cover. So if you were Miami +7, you were pretty happy about that, or even 6.5 for that matter. You still managed to cover on this one. But look, now we see Buffalo kind of break themselves away again. and are 11-3. Miami falls to 8-6. This is sort of a disappointment, obviously, for Miami, who are hoping to pull at least to 9-6 or 9-5 rather to keep themselves really afloat in the AFC playoff picture. But now we're just seeing Buffalo pull away and beat really good teams. So what does this mean for both of these teams going forward?
Well, it means for Buffalo, you clinch the AFC East, so your first goal's down. You clinch the division. Now they need to finish the job here and get the 1 seed in the AFC. Can't let up just because you won the division. You need home field. You saw how great that crowd was. I mean, started snowing and they're singing, "Let it snow, let it snow." Buffalo fans are the best. Just ask Adam Pelletier. It's Bills Mafia, man. Looking at what they got. They got at Chicago this week. That's on paper. They should win that game. But then they got the tricky game next week on Monday Night Football at Cincinnati. So get your popcorn ready. The Bills got to find a way to win that game because they don't need to be going back to Arrowhead to play the Kansas City Chiefs.
No, they certainly don't. But here's the thing about Buffalo, though, in that we've seen them be suspect over the last few weeks as far as playing kind of down to their opponent, not looking necessarily like they can win. In this instance, I guess iron sharpened iron, and they were able to keep pace and play well. But yeah, I mean, they're really going to have to keep that up if they want to continue to move on. Look, Josh Allen things, 25 of 40, 304, 4 touchdowns. No real rushing game other than Josh Allen, 10 carries and 77 yards. They got to get somebody else going, right? They got to get Devin Singletary moving, don't they?
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, he takes too many hits. I felt like he was getting annihilated in that game. He get fumbled a couple times, got lucky. But statistically, Allen had a great day in terms of 300 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. So fantasy owners were very pleased, including 77 on the ground. But they got to get their other running backs going to give him a little balance.
Yeah, they certainly do. And Mr. Cook, James Cook, too, he's got to get moving as well. The leading receiver in this one, though, for the Bills, Dawson Knox, 6 catches, 98 yards, and a touchdown, outpaced Stephon Diggs, who had 5 catches on 9 targets for 60 yards. James Cook getting in the end zone by reception, and Nyheim Hines, also Quentin Morris. So everybody but Stephon Diggs gets touchdowns for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, no, and Diggs was frustrated throughout this game, visually frustrated too.
He was. But look, when your team is like, I don't know, I know everybody wants the ball. I get it. I understand it. I know the great players want the ball, but have fun. Like, you're winning, like, or you're going to win. You're playing good competitive football. I know you get frustrated, but settle down. For Miami, Tua, 234, 2 touchdowns on 17 completions. Not a great day for Tua, but he didn't necessarily need to have the best of day, with Raheem Mostert just slicing through 17 carries, 136 yards, didn't get in the end zone, but his buddy Salvon Ahmed did. 6 carries, 43 yards, and a touchdown for his backup. Kind of quiet day for Tyreek Hill, 9 for 69 and a touchdown, but Jalen Waddle, 3 catches, 114 yards, 1 touchdown, beautiful 67-yarder. I mean, these guys, they have dudes. Now they just need to put it together again to win every game.
Agreed there. Yeah, no, it's Buffalo should continue to roll here.
Yeah, I think so too. And I wouldn't be too disappointed if I'm Miami. You had your test now. You know what you're up against. Now you know what you got to do going forward, and you have to kind of win out. I mean, this is a situation where if you want to have the best possible playoffs situation, you control your own fate in that case. If you win, obviously you improve. If not, can't do much for you.
Yeah, no, the schedule was tough. I mean, to have to go to San Fran, LA, and then all the way to Buffalo, tough spot. So the Dolphins just got to get right here at home on Christmas against the Packers.
They got to do it. All right, let's talk about the over-under on this one, 44. They killed that one and then some. Let's move on to the Sunday games as we close the book on Saturday. But before we do, Ryan, what do you say we step away for a quick second and pay a couple of bills? That way we can continue to keep the show on the air, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right, we'll come right back. And when we do, we'll break down Sunday's games. But before we do, as we always do, Let's talk about WynnBET. It's the official online sports book of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. WynnBET is active in a bunch of states, and there are tons of ways to win, including live betting and same-game parlays. Plus, for the hashtag DGens only, try your luck at WynnBET's Parlay Wheel. There's great promos, odds, and payouts all happening right now at WynnBET. You ready to play? Sign up today. You're going to get a special offer. Bet $100, win $100, limited to state availability. So much to choose from, and all you have to do is head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WynnBET so they know that we sent you. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET to claim your free bet today. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions on WynnBET.com. Must be 21 or older and present in the state where playthrough. WynnBET is available. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Do not forget to enter the SGP mini helmet contest. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/helmet to enter. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/helmet. Been browsing that merch store, Ryan. I got to tell you, that helmet is slick and everybody needs to check it out.
Yeah, no doubt. I saw it the other day. That thing is clean.
It is very clean. Nice little black helmet with the SGPN logo on it. It fits perfectly on your desk. Make sure to grab that. Mine will be in shortly, along with my SGPN fantasy football. I'm getting the fantasy football podcast coffee mug. I'm partial to that show, seeing as though I helped launch it, and a couple of other fun little trinkets coming from the SGPN merch store.
Yeah, no, there's tons to choose from. There's so many shows on SGPN. So everybody, holiday season, go check out the merch store.
Absolutely. There's an NFL
They got
gambling
these
podcast
hats too.
Those hats as well. Hoodies. Mine's coming too. So like I said, just have some fun with that merch store and pick up that helmet. Make sure, or actually just enter the contest so you can win it and you don't have to buy it yourself. All right, let's move over to Sunday, where we start with the Atlanta Falcons taking on the New Orleans Saints. Well, Atlanta is not a darling as much as it was, but they did cover. If we got 5.5, yeah, that was good. And even if you got the 4.5, they did cover. But New Orleans walks away the winner 21-18. Desmond Ritter's first career start is squashed.
Yeah, and the Saints are still mathematically alive because nobody in the South wants to win games. You're looking at it, the Bucs 6-8, everybody else 5-9. So ugly game. Saints got off to a good start and kind of just milked it a little bit after that. Dalton was okay, did a good job game managing. Taysom Hill came in through a touchdown, long touchdown too. So I thought Ritter looked okay in his rookie debut. I mean, it's hard to evaluate. You don't know how much how much they're going to put in with the playbook with him being a rookie. I know that they were coming off the bye, so I think we fade the Falcons from here on out. I think they're done.
They were done when they decided to go ahead and put Ritter in. I mean, that was them putting the white flag up and saying, you know what, we're going to see what we've got. We're moving on to next season. I don't know what Mariota's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen with them, but just a frustrating day all around. But, Tyler Algier, they know what they have there at running back. 17 carries, 139 yards, and a touchdown. Finally, Ryan, now that he's on my bench, he gets a day where he blows up like that. And it's just, frustrating for a fantasy manager, but for real life football, Tyler Algier, I think, is the real deal.
Doesn't it always work like that, Rod?
Especially in the playoffs, man. Especially in the playoffs.
No doubt.
So, yeah. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Atlanta's pretty much done. New Orleans, yeah, they're still mathematically alive, but new math. When you got Andy Dalton throwing 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 11 completions. And in fact, you talk about fantasy, Taysom Hill as well on my bench. I picked him up as a tight end. And then Juwan Johnson on my bench. Whatever. You don't want to hear about my fantasy team. But all the Saints and Falcons pretty much screwed me this week. It's frustrating. Terrible. Yeah. Although I will give a shout out to Phil from MD. He built himself some nice plus 600 and plus 1,200 parlays with boosts with the props from the Propcast. So, Phil, thanks for listening to the Propcast. Thanks for enjoying it because that's a lot of fun too, that show.
Yeah, let's go, man. Congrats on the win. That's a nice little payout headed into the holiday season.
Sure is. Let's go. I definitely want to see some cash from that. All right, look, both of these teams, I don't even know what to do. I mean, obviously one of them one of these NFC South teams is going to win the NFC South. Which one it's going to be, flip a coin. I think at this point it may end up being just Tampa Bay, and these other folks will be on the outside looking in. But I mean, hell, what's stopping the Saints from making a nice little sweeping comeback, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, they got to be kicking themselves because all they had to do was win that game in Tampa, and they'd be in first place right now. Mm-hmm. And they had that game won.
They sure did. All right, over under on this one, 39 or 43 rather. They did not get there. They were a few points short of that with 39 total points. All right, let's get away from that ugly football. That means nothing to us unless you were a better of that. Let's move on to a game that probably did have some money on it, and that was the Detroit Lions beating the New York Jets 20-17. This one was a thriller as well. This one came down to the wire. In fact, this one helped me, hopefully, cross my fingers, barring tonight's game, take home a chance to play for the championship finals in one of mine. So the Detroit Lions, like I said, beat the New York Jets 20-17. Both teams now 7-7. Detroit was 2-point underdogs in this in some spots. And if you picked it up there, you were happy. Still +1 if at the lowest. So obviously Detroit covers as the underdog. Fun times ahead for Jared Goff and the Lions, maybe? Question mark?
Man, the Lions are as hot as anybody. They've won, 6 in a row now, or 6 out of 7. Their only loss was on Thanksgiving to the Buffalo Bills. They're hot. There's no other way to describe it. They've covered 7 straight games. This one, you're kicking yourself if you're a Jets fan. You got the game won, and then you get tricked on the 4th and inches play where the Lions break it open at the end, and then Zach Wilson's able to make a miraculous play on 4th and 18, and they miss a field goal to lose it. So great win for the Lions. They continue to roll. They're in the NFC playoff wildcard picture. They got a real shot at getting to the playoffs for the first time in years. And for the Jets, seems like the magic's kind of run out a little bit.
6 of the last 7. 6 of the last 7. I mean, the Niners have won 7 straight. The Lions have won 6 of their last 7. I understand that power rankings have a lot to do with records and overall records and stuff like that. But if you want to take into account 2 of the hottest teams in the league right now, you have to look at the Niners and you have to look at the Lions. You can kind of throw their records out at this point and just say, if I were to look at the last 7 weeks, these are the teams that are powering through right now. You know, obviously the Eagles are going to be up there. Obviously the Vikings are going to be up there, but like, you want to talk about the last few weeks, it's those 2 teams, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and you look at, they beat down Minnesota last week as well, and Jacksonville the week before that, and Jacksonville's playing better as well. So yeah, no, the Lions are hot. For the Jets, I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. It's kind of that 5-2 start was nice. I don't know the status of Mike White going forward as well, or if they'll just continue to ride it out with Zach Wilson. A lot of moving parts in New York.
Well, and just to go back to the Lions real quick, they did play Buffalo to 3 points, a difference, 28-25. So it wasn't as if they completely got blown out by the Bills. They actually made it a game. But as to the Jets, yeah, it's crazy to think that now we're talking about riding it out with Zach Wilson when Zach Wilson entered the season as the clear guy, pretty much, you know, as the Jets starting quarterback, and there was kind of no question about it. Now here we're saying, maybe they'll ride it out with Zach Wilson, who was supposed to be the guy from the get-go.
Well, yeah, and he was the number 2 pick overall in the draft just last year. So, yeah, crazy development in New York.
How far the mighty have fallen. Definitely tough times ahead for the Jets, honestly. They just have to get something moving. I mean, they got good guys. They got Zonovan Knight, who actually has jumped out of nowhere. Garrett Wilson, 4 catches, 98 yards. It's not as if they don't have a little bit of talent there. They proved it in the beginning of the season. They just got to get it together. Over under on this, 44.5. They came in at 37. Couldn't even get the over for you. So I'm sorry if you were an over better on this one, which you probably shouldn't have been in the first place.
Yeah, not with these 2 teams.
No. Speaking of over betting, you might have bet the under on this one to be mildly disappointed as the Chiefs beat the Houston Texans 30-24 in what was way closer of a game than it should have been at all, as evident by the 14.5-point spread, 14 in some places that was being laid, as Kansas City being 14-point favorites or 14.5-point favorites. Obviously, this did not cover, and it never looked like it was close to covering, honestly, at all.
Yeah, no, they were never close to covering. They should have lost this game, to be honest. I thought Houston outplayed them from the get-go. The Chiefs they've done this a couple times now where they just literally go through the motions. And, I mean, kudos to them. They find a way to win. Gambling-wise, though, if you've had the Chiefs this year, you have not been profitable. They're 4-2 against the spread, despite being 11-3 overall.
I don't even know. Like, it's funny because my brother summed it up the best. He's a Kansas City Chiefs fan. Texted me earlier in the day. You know what team I absolutely love? Kansas City Chiefs. He's like, but you know what team I absolutely hate? Kansas City Chiefs.
Kansas City Chiefs.
I'll
trade you.
Right? Oh yeah, exactly. Right. You'll trade them on the record and everything. But when you got guys like Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, even like Juju Smith-Schuster, like, you should be blowing guys out. You should be blowing teams out. That almost seems like a no-brainer. And it's a team like the Texans, who are 1-11-1 coming into the game. That should have been a no-brainer for you. But for whatever reason, sometimes you come in and that other team has geared themselves up. And that was really evident by the Texans and the way they played that game. They were the ones that prepared all week long for what they were stepping into. Whereas the Chiefs, not to say they didn't prepare all week long, but look, that if you're a student, right, and there's a class that you've pretty much been coasting through the whole year, and it comes time for finals, and you're like, man, I got this. I don't need to study quite as hard, right? I could pretty much pass this with my eyes closed. I'll look over the book the night before and refresh, and then you get the test, and it's a whole bunch of different questions that you weren't ready for. You're like, oh man, that's kind of what it was this week for the Chiefs. They opened up the book, and Texas the Houston Texans threw stuff at him they hadn't seen before. Yeah,
no, and you look at the Texans, they should have beat Dallas last week, and they should have beat Kansas City this week. So they're playing decent football coming down the stretch here. Maybe they can play a little spoiler here when they go to Tennessee this weekend. I think they could win that game.
The way Tennessee's looked the last few weeks, I certainly think that they could win that game.
I think they're a live dog there.
Yeah. I mean, Davis Mills actually looked good. Honestly, it wasn't as if he looked great, but he looked like he could get the job done. He didn't blow up the stat sheet, 12 of 24 for 121, but he did have 2 touchdowns on this one. Royce Freeman, 11 for 51, obviously with Pierce out, not a good sign, but really this was more of Houston being able to frustrate Kansas City defensively than anything. And like you said, though, this came down to a couple of choice turnovers that really gave Kansas City an easier path to win. Hats off to Jerick McKinnon, my friends. If you are a fantasy manager with Jerick McKinnon, congratulations on moving on, or congratulations on your win this week, because he was a slate buster.
Yeah, no, he was awesome. It's Kansas City's interesting. I mean, they're in kind of like Buffalo. They kind of just are going through the motions right now, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens over these last 3 games.
Well, I mean, we're gonna find out the true identity of the Kansas City Chiefs here going forward. It's definitely up to them. Really, honestly, it's how hard they want to fight for the rest of the thing, and they got to, because if they want to be the number 1 seed, they've got to win out now, for sure, because the Bills are not going to let up either. All right, over under on this one, 48. This one hit the over again, much of the under bettor's chagrin. All right, let's move over to Philadelphia and Chicago. Yet another game in which it looked like the favorite was going to not walk away from the field with the win, as it was Philadelphia as 8.5-point favorites, 9-point favorites, depending on when and where you got it from. Obviously, Chicago covered. And by and large, Ryan, I feel like they should have won this game.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. They were right there the entire time. Now, I got NFL Live on in the background and just came across the ticker. Jalen Hurts suffered a sprained shoulder, and he's probably going to miss the Cowboys game. because the line just in the Dallas game went up from 2.5 or 3 to all the way up to 6. So sounds like Jalen Hurts is not going to play. So if you can go grab an early value on the Cowboys, go do so.
Oof, yeah. If you're watching live, go right now.
Yep.
Try to hammer it.
Yep.
This
We're breaking news here,
live.
Rod. Yep.
I love it. And even if you're listening to this later on, I mean, they probably haven't shifted yet. Probably haven't had a lot of time to maneuver. So go grab your favorite line and jump on it now. But for the Cowboys, this game anyways is kind of meaningless. And for the Eagles as well now, having won this game, it's a little bit meaningless. So I think that's probably why it's a good idea to rest Hurts now. That way you can have him for the big stretch run, right?
Gardner Minshew show. So we'll see what happens with Philly. But you're right. I mean, Chicago's kind of been a little bit like Houston. They've been feisty at home. They play hard for their coach Eberflus. So I know Jay Mark had no hope on Wednesday when we did the show. I said I think the Bears are going to keep it close. They compete at least. And Justin Fields, he's a pain in the ass to prepare for.
Oh, yeah. And again, Justin Fields just really showing what he can do. 14 of 21, 152, 2 touchdowns. I don't know what it is about not throwing for yardage, but throwing for touchdowns. These short fields, man, maybe it's the punt returning, maybe it's whatever else it is, but I feel like these guys haven't had to necessarily throw the ball a whole lot. But Justin Fields, once again, 1595 on the ground. I still don't think that it's the right move for a franchise to rely on their quarterback to be the leading rusher as well. But, Justin Fields has been able to do it, and he almost kept his team in for a win.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I mean, you're seeing it with Lamar right now in Baltimore. It's hard to stay healthy. So hopefully, like a Josh Allen can stay healthy as well.
Indeed. All right, so we talk about Philly. They're going to probably rest Jalen Hurts next week, which means that if you got to go get that line now, go get that line now for you. They'll probably, I don't know, they may still end up winning that game. Who knows? Because the Cowboys they're the Cowboys, that's for sure. But the Bears obviously eliminated out of it. Now they're just sort of hanging on until the end of the season to see where they end up in the draft lottery.
Yeah, no, the Bears better days ahead, I think.
I think so too. They just got to regroup, kind of see where they're at after this. I mean, it was a hopeful start to the season as far as just the beginning of it, not necessarily how it all. I mean, they beat the Niners, which was great, but then it was all sort of downhill after that. But over under on this one, 47.5. They came in just 2.5 points shy of hitting the over, so the under was in play here. All right, let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Carolina Panthers. Pittsburgh walking away with a 24-16 win over what should have been the resurgent Carolina Panthers. So another win for Mitchell Trubisky in his career. Yay.
How about the Steelers, man? Tomlin still refusing to have a losing season. He survives at least one more week. They're 6-8, and their schedule is favorable coming down the stretch. I mean, they got the Raiders and Browns both at home, and then they got Baltimore. So if they can win that Baltimore game, I think the Steelers might be able to win out here and get to 9-8 after all the crazy up and downs throughout the season.
I'd like to see that, honestly. I want that for Mike Tomlin. That streak is such a fantastic streak that I don't want to see it ended. So I want to see the Pittsburgh Steelers win out. I don't know. I mean, look, stranger things have happened. Obviously, with them being the underdogs, the Steelers in this game, they were 3-point underdogs at some point, 1.5-point underdogs. The point of the matter is they were underdogs coming into this game against Carolina, who had been good up until that point as far as being able to just sort of win games that I don't think they should have ended up winning. But yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh comes away with the win, and it was good. It was good for football. It was fun to watch Pittsburgh win a game. And so, but like you said, if they win out, that'll be on Tomlin more than anything.
No doubt. And then Carolina, I mean, disappointing loss because you're coming off the big win, but they still control their destiny because Tampa Bay sucks.
I can't even believe it. I mean, this is probably what people were feeling like a few years ago when they were talking about the NFC West and all these 7-9 teams being in play, right? Or 4-8 or whatever. You're like, oh yeah, but you still have an opportunity to win your division. It's like, oh my God, really?
Yeah. Yeah, no, or the NFC East a couple years ago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. With the Giants and all them looking as bad as they did. All right. Over under on this one was 37. It got there. It hit 40. Obviously not a very high bar, but they crossed it for sure. Again, we talked about these guys as futures and just what it's going to take for either one of them to be relevant for the rest of the season. So we'll move on from there. Let's take a look at hashtag Dallas sucks in Jacksonville, where Duval comes out with a 40-34 win in overtime against the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas now 10-4, Jacksonville 6-8. Jacksonville 4-point underdogs, 5.5-point underdogs in some instances. So if you're a Dallas bettor, you lost. But if you're a Jacksonville coverer, you were happy that day.
Yeah, promo code Dal sucks. Make sure you don't forget that promo code. Yeah, pathetic by the Cowboys. 27-10. It was so predictable though, because all they could do, Micah Parsons, is talk about the Eagles on deck, and it's like you're playing the Jaguars this week, who are not bad. They've won what now? 3 out of 4. They control their own destiny now in the AFC South, which is also crazy to believe. And Dallas was just coming off a game where they should have lost to Houston. So this is why the Cowboys will never win anything, because they can't help themselves.
It was that classic look ahead, right? They always talk about how if you look too far ahead.
Yeah. And Dallas always falls for it. They are like they are the look ahead team. I can't think of an organization exactly. It's such a joke in terms of like they got so much talent and they underachieve year in and year out. It's comical. As a Washington fan, all I can do is just sit back and laugh.
Look, as a Washington fan, that's what you guys have done for years at each other. It's just a matter of the built-in nature of the rivalry. But yeah, I mean, look, Jacksonville's got a lot to sort of look forward to. They're 6-8 now, not necessarily mathematically eliminated like most teams aren't from the playoffs. Be a hard sell to get them there. I mean, they've got to obviously, like a lot of these teams, win out, like we've been talking about, for them to even be in the conversation. But look, man, Jacksonville has something for this league now, and I think they've sort of announced it this week for sure.
Yeah, and his name is Trevor Lawrence. He was awesome again yesterday. He's playing finally up to his capabilities as the number 1 pick. I think Jacksonville is going to win this division, actually. I think they're way better than Tennessee right now. They play in Week 18 in Jacksonville. I definitely lean to the Jaguars in that game, and if the Titans just lose another game, then the Jags can even lose another game on top of it. So Jaguars are sitting in a good spot here. They got a big one Thursday night at the Jets, though. So now we got Jets, Jags. We just had, Jets, Lions in a meaningful December game. Now we got Jets, Jags. And we got Lions, Panthers this week.
What sort of alternate universe are we living in at this point? I don't even know.
It's
the
NFL, man.
It's the NFL.
Yeah, who needs Brady and Rodgers when you got Lions, Panthers, and Jets, Jags?
When you've got Lawrence and Zach Wilson. Heck yeah. Trevor Lawrence, true. 318, 4 touchdowns. Dak Prescott, 256, 3 touchdowns, but that two interceptions, one that was ridiculously costly for sure. But yeah, I mean, look, Dallas is Dallas. They either back them now or they're going to fall off the face of the earth, right?
Yep. Continue to fade Dallas in big games because that's what the Cowboys do.
10-4 are the Dallas Cowboys. All right, let's stop talking about the Dallas Cowboys before we get fired. Or actually, no, we're not praising them, so we're fine.
Yeah, no, we're shitting on them.
Yeah, we are. Let's talk about the Denver Broncos and the Arizona Cardinals in a game that everybody wanted to watch, where Denver walks away with a 24-15 win over the Cardinals, covering the 2.5-point spread, but most certainly not captivating the hearts of America, as this game featured not just backups, but like backups to backups on this game. Ryan, what do we even say about the Brett Rippon versus Trace McSorley, really, if you want to get technical at it, the top passer for Arizona? Yeah, this game was just horrible all around.
Yeah, for the Broncos. They scored 24 points in back-to-back games so far this year. So maybe getting rid of Russell Wilson is the way to go for him. Maybe they're better with Rippon. So, yeah, terrible game. Two terrible teams. The Cardinals are a joke, too. I mean, what they've become so far in the last couple of years has been comical under Cliff Kingsbury.
And it's not for lack of anything other than I just don't understand why this team can't gel. You pay Kyler Murray, you've got DeAndre Hopkins. Look, James Conner, say what you will. He's still a running back that gets things done. He's still a running back that can move, that can move the chains, but unfortunately none of these guys. Look, DeAndre Hopkins had 7 catches for 60 yards. James Conner, 16 carries for 63 yards. He did find the end zone, but nothing doing there. And even with Kyler Murray in there, it wasn't any better. I mean, these guys right now are 4-10, and again, most of that was with Kyler Murray. So, I don't know what the answer is in Arizona. In fact, I don't even know what the question is, to be honest with you. That's why I don't head coach, but I don't even know what the question is.
Yeah, no, I mean, you think about it, where do they go from here? Because I think Kyler Murray's going to miss time next year too because he tore his ACL. It's they're in a bad situation franchise wise. Cliff Kingsbury's got to go at the end of the year. I think that's obvious to everybody. Honestly, both these coaches need to go at the end of the year.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's not like Denver's any better at this point. They're 4-10
No.
as well, and they just ascended to 4-10. So,
they're rolling now. They can score more than 20.
Listen, let Russ cook at home. All right.
Let Russ sit.
Let Russ sit. 37 was the over-under on this one. They got to 39, so you actually hit the over. I don't know anybody that bet the over, but if you did, you're a happy person because you hit it. I don't know anybody that did. All right. 2 franchises are horrible. Let's move on to the Las Vegas Raiders and the New England Patriots. I heard this morning, I think it was NFL radio, they were trying to name the play, and there was a lot of them that were there. I think the Sin City Spectacular or something was one of them that I liked. The Flick and Pick, I think, was another one that I heard somewhere voting out there. But yeah, this game ended on just probably the single most craziest play that I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, probably the dumbest, lowest IQ football play I've ever seen in my entire life. If you haven't seen it yet, you must be living under a rock because it's been everywhere. But Jacoby Myers decided the game's tied. So here's the situation: the game's tied. They run a draw, so they're playing for overtime. Basically, everybody's like, all right, they're going to run it out, go to overtime, see what happens. And Jacoby Myers decides he's going to lateral. Well, actually, Stevenson decides he's going to lateral the ball to Jacoby Myers, which I was like, what are they doing? Well, what if they fumble for some reason and it gets taken back? And then Jacoby Myers decides he's going to throw a ball 20 yards down the field backwards, one-on-one jump ball to Mac Jones, of all people, against Chandler Jones. You're not going to win that matchup. So, yeah, man, for Belichick, I mean, for as great a coach as he is, like, that's a reflection on him. Like, we would crush any other coach in the scenario, but you got to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, what the hell was that?
Well, and Jacoby Myers, to his credit, did take some of the blame, well, most of the blame, in fact, if not all of the blame, honestly, in his first game office. Well, and he did. And that's, I think, a lot of times we like to roast these players for saying, blah, 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 but he actually took responsibility. And yeah, that was a bonehead move, and he knows it. So again, I don't think he's going to want to relive that moment as he's going to see it. He's going to see it in ESPN top 10s. He's going to see it for the rest of his life, that move. But you just got to move on from it. But here's the thing. That play would have never happened had Mac Jones been better in the first place. I mean, I think that this whole situation could have been avoided if this offense would have been better than it was anyways. Mac Jones, 13 completions, 112 yards, no touchdowns. I mean, if it weren't for Ramondre Stevenson getting into the end zone, if it weren't for the defense playing better, then, they wouldn't have been in that situation. And the Raiders, to their own credit, managed to pull stuff together. Derek Carr, 231, 3 touchdowns. But honestly, Ryan, it wasn't as if Mac Jones put them in a good situation.
No, but it goes back to the other issue with Matt Patricia calling the plays. Like, how does Stevenson go for 172 and you only give the ball to him 19 times? I mean, for Belichick Patriots team, I mean, what's not broke, you don't fix it. I mean, so they should have just continued to run the ball with Stevenson and play ball control this entire game. But for some reason, they wanted to air it out a little more. And honestly, the Patriots did get jobbed by the refs, too. That was not a touchdown for the Raiders. His foot was clearly out of bounds. I don't know what these officials were looking at.
Well, okay, so we have merch in the SGPN store right now talking about what we feel like about refs. But by the same token, you're absolutely right. It's just when you blow it up, you have got 4K cameras, you have got drones, you have got like ring cams. I don't care what you've got. They're all right there and they've all blown it up and they still call it a touchdown. Yeah, they got jobbed. That probably shouldn't have been a thing either. It's just, again, you can't take the human element out of the game, right?
Yep.
So, all right. New England 7-7, kind of feeling that burn like the Jets. Las Vegas 6-8, but they're sort of on the upside of their 4-8 or 6-8 rather. They needed that game. They needed to win that game because maybe they needed another Derek Carr emotional breakdown. We talked about how they needed that to kind of kickstart them again.
Yeah, no, for the Patriots, this was devastating because if they win this game, they're in the driver's seat to get the wild card round. Now they got to beat Cincinnati this week. They got to find a way to win that game, or otherwise I think they're pretty much toast.
Well, maybe Derek Carr knew that the Fresno State Bulldogs had won their bowl game and was sort of thrilled about that and uplifted a little bit. So who knows?
Yeah, indeed.
All right. Over under on this one was 45. They got there with 54 total points. Let's move on to the Tennessee Titans and the Los Angeles Chargers. You talked about them earlier, Ryan. Tennessee, just not necessarily a team that's as good as they were at the beginning of the season now. Tannehill exited this game for a second too, correct? And then he came back in?
Correct.
Yeah, so we're talking about just a rotating cast of characters there. But Derrick Henry continues to be Derrick Henry, 104 yards on the ground and a touchdown, 21 carries. So still, but he was the leading receiver in this game. That should tell you something. 4 catches, 59 yards. Ryan, what's wrong in Tennessee?
They're bad offensively. It's one guy or bust. I mean, Derrick Henry, like you said, still goes for over 100 yards. They played this at their pace, needed it to be low scoring because they can't score, but they just couldn't keep Herbert and Mike Williams. Couldn't prevent them from getting in field goal range at the end of the game. What a throw! What a catch! Chargers, I mean, give them credit. They have found ways to win games coming down the stretch here and put themselves in a good position. Maybe Staley will save his job.
Maybe by that much. Well, I mean, look, for Justin Herbert, though, 313, no touchdowns. I mean, I know that this, he's the next young gun type player, but no touchdowns. That's still got a sting.
Yeah, no, he kind of struggled yesterday, but when his team needed him the most, he made some big plays. Looking at what they got an easy schedule coming down the stretch. So if they do miss the playoffs, it's completely on them. They got the Colts and Rams and Broncos. So those are 3 games you should win all 3.
Yeah. Well, again, we talked about Tennessee being 7-7 and maybe now just looking over their shoulder for the NFC or the AFC South rather. And the Chargers 8-6.
Jags.
Yeah, the Jags are nipping at their heels at this point. That's crazy. Yep. But the Chargers sort of watching as the big dogs play, and they're 8-6, kind of just waiting for their turn to maybe make some noise. I don't know that it's going to be as big a sound as they want, but we'll see how they end up in the playoff race. 46.5, the over-under on this one. 31 points was the total, the under hit. So let's talk about okay. So first of all, Tennessee did cover if you got them at 3. If you got them at 2.5, they did not, unfortunately. So if you were Tennessee 3.5 better, you were happy. But if not, then you pushed, unfortunately for you.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to Cincinnati taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady, stop me if you've heard this one, did not win another game. This is a situation where I think, just like Matt Ryan, I'm Tom Brady. I'm looking in the mirror this morning thinking to myself, well, I pretty much should walk away at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I had the Bucks plus 3.5, and they're up 17-0. And I go, oh yeah, I was all over this one. How did they not cover when they're up 17-0 at halftime or right before halftime? Joe Burrow, I saw stat today. The Bengals 18-4 against the spread in their last 22 games. That's unheard of. So the Bengals continue to roll. They're a scary team right now in the AFC playoff picture, I think.
They have got the momentum now. They've got the they've got it all.
Swag.
At this point. They really do. They got the swag.
Yeah.
There you go. I was looking for a word. I was like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
They do. They have that swag now. And it's Joe Burrow, obviously being Joe Burrow. And it wasn't even as if he was breaking the stat sheet. He had 27 completions, but only 200 yards, but 4 touchdowns. But why? Because of short field position that entire third quarter, literally starting from like basically Tampa Bay's
It's
goal
ridiculous. Yeah. No, it was ridiculous with the turnovers by Tampa, mainly Mr. Brady. I mean, Tampa, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I really don't. I know that they're in the South, but I don't think they're going to win the South. They're not good.
They're on the wrong side of this. Honestly, they really
Yeah.
are. And it's I know that they're leading right now. I know that they're in the lead at 6-8. They're in the lead of the NFC South. But again, they are not playing their best football. It does not look like a cohesive unit out there at all. You got guys like Leonard Fournette on the sidelines, pissed off because it looked like somebody was blaming him for that fumble when the ball slipped out of Tom Brady's hand. That wasn't even a missed exchange. If you watch that ball, Tom Brady gripped it a little bit early and it fell out of his hands into Leonard Fournette's chestal area. So it wasn't even a good clean handoff to begin with. And then Tom Brady's throwing interceptions. You got Mike Evans pissed off. You got Chris Godwin pissed off. Like, this does not look like a team that wants to actually compete for a Super Bowl later down the road.
Yeah, no, things are just not right in Tampa. I mean, you saw Bernard with the media after too. It's not a good situation down there. It seems like this is going to be the end for Tom in Tampa.
It's got to be at this point. I mean, even if he decides not to retire, what do you do? You know, it's just a matter of you've seen enough now. You've had your time. It's time to go. But for Cincinnati, again, Joe Burrow just going to continue to roll. I think at 10-4 now, they're in the driver's seat of their destiny too. Obviously, they'll make the playoffs, but where they fall has yet to be seen. But I think they're a force to be reckoned with right now once they get everybody humming like they did yesterday.
Yeah, no doubt. I would not want to get in front of the Cincinnati wagon right now.
Not even a little. All right. Over under on this one happened to be 46.5. Killed it at 57. We move on to the look aheads because we're skipping Sunday night's game. No, I'm just kidding. We're not.
I wish we could because I want to blank that from my memory.
I know. Unfortunately, we have to talk about the New York Giants beating the Washington Commanders 20-12. It was New York as 4-point underdogs, 4.5-point underdogs. In some cases, they did cover. I'll just talk about the over-under real quick on this one, 42, but they did not cover the over as well. So, Ryan, there was a few things about this game that were frustrating from a Commander's point of view. Obviously, the most of which being the very last situation where Robinson crossed the goal line, only to have McLaurin called on a penalty, thereby wiping it off the board. And then the last pass interference that wasn't called. A lot of frustration. So I'll give you the floor to vent.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could vent about the officials. They were awful, but I think everybody knows that. If I'm gonna take the route of criticizing my own team. Scott Turner, how does Brian Robinson only get 12 carries when he goes for 89 yards on 7.5 yards a carry? It's December football. Run the ball. Antonio Gibson was effective too, 4.2 yards carry, but he only has 5 carries. So Taylor for Heineke, I mean, 30 pass attempts, that's too many. That needs to be closer to 20. It needs to be a more ball control team. The fumble at the end of the first half was really a momentum changer for Thibodeau. That guy, they couldn't block him all night. He's awesome. He's going to have a great career in New York. And I thought Daniel Jones played well. He made timely throws. I know his stats weren't sexy. And then for Saquon Barkley, he got the big yards late on that final possession to get him in field goal range to go up 8.
That Saquon Barkley was, I think, the difference at that point. He was ripping off huge runs. I mean, that was all you had to do was stop. At that point, really just had to stop Saquon Barkley, and they could not do it. So, definitely hats off to Saquon for putting in a huge performance. I'm with you on the Robinson thing. I mean, look, I was happy because I had a prop that I had put out that was Brian Robinson rushing for 25 yards in both halves. So 25 in the first half, 25 in the second half. Got there on both halves, but he really should have been given the ball a lot more. And yes, Gibson was efficient, but I'm also glad he didn't get the ball more because I was going up against him in a league that I didn't need him to get big carries on. But, by and large, I think the if they would have been able to control the clock a lot more with Robinson, yeah, you're right. They probably should have been able to hang on to win that game. Like you said, though, too, the refs, you can pin a lot of what just happened on the refs too, because those two calls, I think really did influence what happened. And
the 2-point conversion. I mean, the 2-point conversion, the offensive pass interference, then you miss the extra point the next play. So, yeah, the whistle didn't go our way last night. So it is what it is. You gotta move on and hashtag rest or terrorists, as the shirt says.
Exactly. Giants now 8-5-1, Washington 7-6-1. Couple of tough schedules ahead for both of these teams, but yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. If you're Washington, you got to get back on that horse. They were one of the hotter teams in the NFL too, heading into that week. Unfortunately, they got cooled down. So we'll look to see them jump.
Rod, you want to let us win this week?
No. Well, I don't know. We've locked up the West. I suppose there's nothing to be had for us. We may rest our starters.
You need the 2 seed though.
Oh, are you kidding? We definitely need the 2 seed. I don't want anything other than that. Okay. Well, Ryan, that officially puts the wrap on Saturday and Sunday and Thursday. Obviously, there's still one more game to come tonight. We'll watch the Pack and see what they can do in their game this week. But as we always do, let's turn our attention a couple of weeks ahead to find out some lines that we are looking at for week 17 in the NFL. But Ryan, I know that you have got how we've done in our week 16 look ahead. Hit us with those.
Yeah, so we gave out the Jaguars, the Thursday night game. We gave out the Jags at +2.5. They are now a 1-point dog, and I think they're actually going to be favored by the time that thing kicks off. So good value there. Gave out the Lions +4 in Carolina. They're now they're a 2.5-point favorite. So we crossed over the 0. We got a touchdown of value there. Cincinnati -1 in New England. They're now -3.5. We gave out the Buffalo Bills -7.5 in Chicago. They're actually 8.5 now. I saw it up to 9, but it came back down to 8.5. J-Mark must have bet it down. What else did we give out? We gave out the Seahawks +11 in Arrowhead, and they are down to actually wait. We actually are on the wrong side of this one. We gave out no. I'm sorry. I'm all over the place. We gave out Seattle +11. They're now a 9.5-point dog. So we got over that 10 number. And last but not least, we gave out the Steelers +2 at home against Vegas. It made no sense to us. They are a field goal favorite now, so 5 points of value.
See, I'm telling you right now, this is my favorite part was the look aheads. I love looking back, but I always love looking ahead because we seem to be identifying some good value.
I agree. I love it.
Okay, well, Ryan, I will give the floor to you. Why don't you start us off at where you're looking?
I'm going to go with my team, actually. Week 17, I'm seeing my team currently, Washington, as a 3-point underdog at home against the Cleveland Browns. I will jump on that gladly right now and take Washington +3 against Deshaun Watson and the Browns.
I love that very much so. Because, again, it doesn't make any sense. I know what Cleveland just did and beat the Ravens, but they beat the shell of the Ravens. And this is Washington, who is coming off of a very frustrating loss to the Giants, which they should have won. So definitely love that. Why don't I step over to this Carolina-Tampa Bay game? Right now, I'm seeing Carolina at +9.5.
Oh,
No
yeah.
way.
Pounce on that.
No way. Are you kidding me? That is
Well,
insane. That's not going to stay there at all.
well, and Rod, this is the game. Like for the Panthers, they need to win this game to win the division. The Bucks. So this is a do or die game for both teams. I'm with you. Too many points there.
Yeah. And it's not as if I think this is because I think Carolina is a dominant force. I just think Tampa's stumbling all over themselves. There's no way I think they can put together a good enough game to beat anybody at this point. And even if they do end up winning, I don't think that they're going to crush Carolina in a way that this line suggests that they should.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there, Rod.
All right, moving on. Where do we got next?
I'm seeing the Raiders. This game is puzzling. I got the Raiders -1.5 against the Niners. I'm not taking the Raiders. I'm just saying they are -1.5. I'm going to take the Niners +1.5. They're going to be favored by close to a touchdown, I think, by the time this thing goes off. So I'll take the Niners +1.5 against the Raiders. That makes no sense.
That is absolutely insane. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to take, let's see. It looks like, well, Miami and New England right now is at +1.5 in favor of Miami. Well, okay. I'm all convoluted. I'm all over the place, Ryan. Miami and New England. Miami is a 1.5 underdog right now, which I find to be absolutely insane. Whereas what we just saw this last week. So I'm going to take Miami +1.5 for this. I don't think it stays there.
Bingo. Yep. I like that one too. And for my last one, I'm going to take Jacksonville and a pick 'em at Houston. I think they'll be favored by at least a field goal. Jaguars are a different team since they last played. I will take the Jaguars and a pick 'em in Houston.
Damn you. That was the one I was going to go with next. Is the next one to me then?
Yes. Final one.
All right. I got my final one. Well, look, Philadelphia right now is only 3-point favorites over New Orleans. So give me Philly -3 before that one shoots up to at least a touchdown or at least 6 points.
Yeah, I thought of that one too. That's a good one.
So, all right, beautiful. Run them down for us one more time so everybody knows and is on the same page with us.
We are giving out Washington +3 at home against Cleveland. We are giving out Carolina +9.5 at Tampa Bay. We are giving out the Niners +1.5 at Vegas. We are giving out the Dolphins +1.5 as well in New England. Jaguars in a pick'em with the Texans, and the final one, the Philadelphia Eagles -3 against the New Orleans Saints.
All right, as we will do, we will update you on that line movement next week. But of course, that is the Week 17 look ahead in the NFL. We're coming up on the last time that we can look ahead, Ryan, as we break down stuff on Monday. That'll be the last week we look ahead until the playoffs, yeah?
Yeah, no, it's here. It's sad, but it's also exciting because the games are getting better and better.
Absolutely. Football is definitely getting better and better. All right. That'll do it for this episode of the NFL Gambling Podcast. It's our weekly roundup and look ahead. Ryan, before we head out, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you on social media?
Yeah, for those watching on YouTube, right there at Moneyline_Mac. I am in the Discord as well. And then if you want some college basketball, it's college basketball season. Head over to the College Basketball Experience with Colby and I every single night.
You will find that us here in the SGPN never rest on one sport and one sport alone. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. There is still going to be a link in my bio to everything I've got going on. They haven't been able to take that away from us yet. So while it's still there, find the link in my bio with everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review, whether it's in between media, all the fun stuff got going on. Until next week, everybody, enjoy the Monday night game and enjoy Week 16 in the NFL. We'll see you to recap it. Talk about Week 18. For Ryan, for me, see you next week, and let it ride.